Every hero goes through the hero's journey. Two heroes that we know that do are Beowulf and Batman. We know Beowulf's journey, but here is Batman's journey in Batman Begins. The first part of the hero's journey is the ordinary world. This is where we meet the hero and get a glimpse at their normal life. Bruce Wayne was first introduced as a young boy playing in the garden with his childhood friend. Then, Bruce falls into a well and is introduced to a fear that causes major grief and power. The second part of the hero's journey is the call to adventure, where something happens and the hero has to face change. Bruce goes to an opera with his parents and he asks to leave because of his fear for bats. After he leaves the theater, his parents get shot by a back alley mugger. This leads to Bruce traveling around Asia until the trial of his parents' murderer. The third part of the hero's journey is refusal of the call. This is where the hero fears something and tries to avoid the situation. After the trial, the murderer was proclaimed innocent. Bruce decided he was going to shoot the murderer. However, someone else managed to shoot the murderer first. Bruce starts to fill up with anger, and this makes Bruce leave to Bhutan to train and become strong enough to fight for what he believes is justice. The fourth part of the hero's journey is meeting of the mentor. This is where the hero comes in contact with someone who is willing to provide training. Bruce arrives in Bhutan and meets Ra's al Ghul, who tells him to meet him at the top of a mountain with a blue flower. Ra's al Ghul trains Bruce in numerous fighting styles and helps Bruce cope with fear. Along with mental and physical training, Ra's al Ghul teaches Bruce about justice and the criminal mind. The fifth part of the hero's journey is crossing the threshold. This is where the hero leaves the ordinary world and pursues the adventure. Bruce leaves the threshold after his training is done and refuses to kill for justice. This turns into a fiery battle, leading to Bruce saving Ra's al Ghul's life and returning to Gotham in hopes of protecting it from evil. We all know about superheroes, but do they portray the archetypal hero? Batman was just a young boy who suffered through mental trauma after seeing his parents shot in front of him. This led to Batman leaving his homeland to train. This is very similar to Beowulf. Beowulf left his homeland to help remove Grendel from Heorot. Later, Batman finishes his training and heads back home to deal with issues in Gotham. When Batman returned home, he took justice into his own hands and started to take out the biggest threats of Gotham, the first of which was Falcone, who was a powerful drug lord with many men standing behind him. Later, a new threat arose, and this threat helped reveal the main antagonist. This is also similar to Beowulf, when he fought the dragon to protect his people. After Batman took out Dr. Crane, Batman turned focus towards Ra's al Ghul, who had Crane working for him. Like Beowulf, Batman proceeds to lead Gotham with his company, Wayne Enterprises. Again, this is similar to Beowulf. Beowulf goes back to his homeland to lead them after leaving Heorot when he finished with his tasks with Grendel and his mother. Beowulf and Batman might not have been from the same millennium, but they are both the standard archetypal hero. If you watch Batman, you wouldn't exactly think about how it relates to Christianity. In fact, Batman has many symbols present. The most obvious symbol in Batman is the gas that Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul use. This gas is the symbol for evil, and evil is normally derived from the devil. Some small symbols include the mansion. The interior is almost completely white. The color white is often related to pure or holy. In this case, Batman resides in his mansion away from evil under a different name. This is true until Ra's al Ghul decides to burn it down. Ra's al Ghul is the main antagonist in this film, so it is only fit for him to destroy the symbol of holy. One last symbol would be the bat. The bat is the fear that haunted Batman when he was young. Later, he overcame this and becomes who he is now. Batman incorporated his fear into his costume, so criminals would fear him like he feared bats. This is a Christian symbol because fear is the opposite of faith. In fact, the citizens have faith in Batman, whereas the criminals fear him.
The sixth step of the hero's journey, tests, enemies, and allies, is where you figure out where all the characters stand. His allies are few but useful. Rachel, his childhood friend, Alfred, his butler, Lucius Fox, and policeman Jim Gordon. His former mentor, who made him into a warrior, becomes his greatest enemy. While Batman goes through his trials, he faces Scarecrow, an enemy who uses fear and represents the trickster and shapeshifter. His greatest test is saving the city from self-destruction. The seventh step of the hero's journey is the approach, where the hero prepares for the central ordeal. He suits up and uses the thing he fears most to inspire terror into those he wishes to defeat. He works with Lucius Fox, a mentor-like figure giving him technology for the task. With fighting skills and the latest equipment, he takes on the crime-ridden underbelly of Gotham. He fights for his life and those of his few friends. The eighth step of the hero's journey is the ordeal. The ordeal is the main conflict the hero has to face. He must defeat his old friend and mentor with radical views to save Gotham. Throughout the final battle, he faces off against escaped convicts, ninjas, and Ra's al Ghul. He blows up the device that will destroy the city before it's fully utilized, and he kills his old mentor that also acted as a shapeshifter by turning into a villain. Throughout Batman Begins, there are a variety of sayings that set the tone for the plot. In the very beginning of the story, he starts in a prison and is taken under the wing of a mysterious man known as Ra's al Ghul, who acts as a herald and mentor, showing Bruce a new journey and training him for it. Ra's al Ghul is similar to Wolfgar in that he is showing the hero a new path. Two more mentor figures in Batman are Lucius Fox and Jim Gordon, who using different tools both aid Batman. Beginning takes place in a foreign land. It makes it easy to see that Bruce is a lost soul. The next saying he enters is the training grounds of the League of Shadows. It is in the mountains, and it highlights his isolation from society, and where he conquers his fears. His time there was a true test of his skills. This is just like in Beowulf, when he faces Brecca and tests his swimming skills. Then comes the return to Gotham City and our main character's home. During the day, the city is depicted as a buzzing metropolis. However, at night, it turns into a land with danger lurking around every corner. Similar to the archetypal setting of the city is massive and hostile. One of the most important sayings to the story is the cave underneath the Wayne Mansion. In the beginning, it is the one area he is most afraid of. It is dark and mysterious, like the mirror from Beowulf. Just like Beowulf, he enters the cave with no fear and even takes a step further and makes it his home.
The presence of evil in both Batman and Beowulf is clear. Grendel terrorizes the town of Herat with his random attacks on the mead hall. Meanwhile, Scarecrow strikes fear into its enemies using his gash, which sends the inflicted into hallucinations. At the end of Batman, Ra's al Ghul's attacks Batman's home, destroying it completely and forcing him to start from scratch. Similar to Ra's al Ghul's attack on Batman, the dragon attacks the Geats, as one of them is suspected of stealing the dragon's gold cups. Beowulf must rise to the task of defending his people as the monster looks to destroy his kingdom. Grendel, Ra's al Ghul, and Scarecrow all clearly represent shadowy characters. Batman's quest was always to protect the town he saw crumbling in front of his eyes. He lost his parents when he was very young, and from then on he learned to overcome his fears. When he faces Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, he is not fighting for any tangible item. He fights the villains for the sole purpose of protecting Gotham and its people. When he defeats one enemy, he immediately prepares for the next attacker. Similarly to Batman, Beowulf receives an award for his successes, although his are tangible items. Although Beowulf receives treasures, he gives all the profits to his people, like Batman does with the protection of Gotham. Batman never truly celebrates a victory over an enemy. He never takes a second to look back because he can't. He's always looking to better himself to protect the city, and always searching for the next threat to exterminate. Beowulf only really reflects on his feats when Unferth attacks him with words. So in a similar way to Batman, Beowulf is also in constant search of the next mission, and when it presents itself, he dives headfirst into the unknown for the well-being of his people. Batman's last test in Batman Begins was when the Wayne Manor was burned to the ground. Bruce, trapped under a beam, was unconscious and unable to get free until Alfred saves him. Although Batman does not die like Beowulf, this experience only motivates him further. In Beowulf is tested his last time when he goes up against the dragon. He leaves instructions for his burial. He is to be buried in a barrow overlooking the sea, so that all who pass will remember who he was. In Batman Begins, Batman collides head-on with his mentor, Ra's al Ghul, and also his enemy, Scarecrow. After years of training under Ra's al Ghul, Bruce finally decides to escape when he is told to kill the inmate brought to him. Bruce returns to Gotham with a new drive to free the city of its crime and destruction. He will to fend off Scarecrow and attempt to stop Falcone. Bruce unleashes Fox to design and create the armor that defined Batman, thus allowing Batman to take to the streets and defend his city. Just like Batman travels home to defend his city, Beowulf travels to Herat to protect the people from Grendel. Batman travels home knowing full well the challenges that will face him when he returns. Similarly to Batman's trek and bravery, Beowulf answers the call to defend Herat. He travels from his kingdom to Herat to defend against the notorious killer, Grendel. Both heroes answer the call quickly and without a question. The self-sacrifice Batman displays for his city is similar to the self-sacrifice that Beowulf displays when he goes to face the dragon, knowing it will be his last battle. Beowulf and Batman fight for the good of the people while their enemies fight to destroy what they protect so dearly. In Batman Begins, Batman faces death many times. At one point, Scarecrow sprays Batman with his mask, which sends him into a series of hallucinations. He especially faces death when Ra's al Ghul burns down his house after his birthday party. Batman is trapped inside under a beam. Alfred saves Batman by returning him to consciousness, which enables Bruce to lift the beam off his chest and escape the burning building. Beowulf also faces many life-or-death encounters, one of which includes his battle with Grendel's mother. During the battle, Beowulf is knocked on his back. He searches for his sword and finds one on the wall. It is the sword mended by giants, which is known for its strength and is said to be magical. Beowulf uses the sword to escape this near-death experience and lives to face his next test.
Batman Begins is a tale with many similarities to Beowulf that follows the hero's journey. Both have an archetypal hero with strict morals, Christian symbolism, archetypal settings, archetypal characters, and good versus evil. This movie and the story of Beowulf have a lot in common, with two heroes conquering many different evils. The Dark Knight and the original Anglo-Saxon are both archetypal heroes that will stand the test of time.